What if the financial habits you have spent years perfecting are the very reason your wealth is not growing? Not because they are wrong in principle, but because they are functioning exactly as the system around them was designed to function. The contradiction is not obvious, and yet, a significant portion of disciplined, educated professionals in their 30s and 40s find themselves with limited financial progress despite years of responsible behavior. The explanation is rarely about personal discipline. It is about how the financial system is structurally designed to absorb income before it can become wealth. To understand this, it helps to examine what actually happens to a salary inside a modern financial system. Before a professional spends a single dollar, a substantial portion of gross income has already been redirected. Federal and state taxation, payroll deductions, and social contributions typically consume between 30 and 42% of earnings, depending on jurisdiction and income tier. What remains is disposable income in name, but not fully in practice. Fixed obligations, including mortgage or rent payments, auto financing, insurance premiums, and minimum debt service, claim another significant share. What most professionals experience as financial freedom is actually a narrowing corridor of discretionary cash. This structural compression is rarely visible on a pay stub, but its effect on long-term wealth accumulation is substantial. Here is where the dynamic becomes more instructive. Each of those fixed obligations was entered into individually and often rationally. A mortgage represents shelter and equity. A car loan enables professional mobility. A credit card provides liquidity management. Viewed in isolation, each decision appears reasonable, but the financial system does not price these obligations in isolation. It prices them collectively against a fixed income stream. And because each obligation carries an interest component, a portion of every payment flows permanently out of the household balance sheet and into institutional balance sheets. The professional is not losing money to poor decisions. They are losing accumulation velocity to the structural design of consumer debt instruments. The third mechanism is the least discussed and perhaps the most consequential. Salary growth, which most professionals treat as the primary engine of financial progress, does not automatically translate into wealth acceleration. In a well-documented pattern sometimes described as consumption smoothing, increases in income tend to trigger proportional increases in fixed expenditure. A higher salary often supports a larger mortgage, a newer vehicle, and expanded lifestyle commitments. Each of these is a rational response to higher earnings, but they collectively ensure that the gap between gross income and net asset accumulation remains roughly constant, or in some cases narrows despite years of career advancement. The system accommodates higher earners by offering them access to larger obligations, not necessarily larger balance sheets. Financially sophisticated individuals approach this structure differently, not by earning more or spending less in the conventional sense, but by deliberately engineering the ratio between income and fixed obligation. The strategic objective is not consumption reduction, it is structural reallocation. This means treating debt not as a necessary feature of adult financial life, but as a variable that directly compresses wealth-building capacity. It means evaluating income growth through the lens of what percentage flows into asset-generating positions versus fixed liability service. And it means recognizing that the financial products most heavily marketed to responsible professionals, mortgages, auto financing, revolving credit, are designed to convert income into institutional revenue streams with relatively low friction and high long-term yield for the lender. The professionals who accumulate wealth at a structurally different rate are not necessarily more disciplined or more ambitious. They have simply shifted how they evaluate financial decisions. They view the financial system not as a neutral environment where hard work produces proportional reward, but as a structured mechanism with embedded flows, incentives, and directional forces. Their decisions are made in response to those forces, not in ignorance of them. Financial positioning in this framework is less about what you earn and more about where earnings are directed once the system takes its share. If this changed how you evaluate your financial structure, consider subscribing to Unfiltered Finance.